Well, welcome back to Carver Clan Travels, and what I'm going to be doing during this particular video is looking at the 2026 World Cruise and one of the variants of the itinerary. What happens to our itinerary if the Suez Canal is unsafe and we have to go around Africa? And while Oceania's provided some guidance on what the nations are, what I've tried to do is portend what that itinerary might be. And you may ask, don't you have other things to do with your life? And the answer is yes, I do. But one of my viewers in YouTube asked, and so I figured I would turn it around within about 24 hours. That's what this video will do, is look at that itinerary and what that variant may be. So I'm going to restate what the crux of the problem is, what the revision is, a graphical display of that, and I'm going to do those parts quickly. They're in another video. So you can look that up, but I want to make sure everybody is on equal footing before we actually get into the itinerary itself. And then, as I always do, there'll be a summary at the end. So the crux of the problem, one of the unique components of this Oceania 2026 World Cruise is the Suez Canal passage. Unfortunately, there's a lot of conflict going on right now in the Suez Canal and the Red Sea. And Oceania has paid attention to all of the social commentary out there in Facebook and YouTube and Cruise Critic, and then issued some guidance on June 20th of 2025. And basically, Jason, the CEO of Oceania, stated that at this time they fully intend to operate the cruise as published, including a scheduled transit through the Red Sea and Suez Canal in May. If a revision becomes necessary, they'd make that decision while we're in Australia in mid-April, and then that decision, at least to what Jason put in his note to us, would take place starting really on April 27th as we're leaving Singapore. He finished up with our safety is the utmost priority of Oceania, which I completely agree with. So what does the revision do? It replaces India, the Middle East, and most of Europe with Africa. The revision would cause 72 ports to remain the same. We'd cancel 22 ports, mainly in Europe, and then we'd move to 13 ports around Africa, including the lovely, as you can see in the picture, Tabletop Mountain. So again, this is what the cruise looks like, and the variant that goes around Africa is over there on the left in blue. We would start to make that pivot in Singapore, which is the number 1 in green in the middle of the screen, and then we'd just follow the blue dots around. So the rest of this video is going to follow those blue dots around, use some references, and try to guess, that's really what it is, a guess of what the itinerary is going to look like. So to do this, I used the Oceania announcement. I went back to the Oceania website to see where there were similar cruises that may fit the bill. And then I went to a website called seadistances.org, which allows you to try to enter in, they've got like 4,000 different ports, and you can enter in your ports and build an itinerary, and it'll tell you how many days it's going to take to get there, depending on how fast your ship is actually moving. I then went and discovered that the Vista's top speed is 20, but it never really goes 20. But I started to play with the numbers, and guess what? The itinerary works. We get to Southampton at the right point, going at 17 knots. So that seems, I started at 10, and we got there like in August, and I figured they're not doing that. And then started working my way up. Knowing that it was a number south of 20, and 17 does seem to work. The Oceania announcement, this is the last of my kind of warnings, did not indicate what ports we would be. They would say like Madagascar. Well, Madagascar is really big, but there are only a limited number of ports that they may go to. So again, I went back and looked at seadistances.org, looked at Oceania website, and tried to guess what ports. Now, I probably got 1 or 2 wrong, but I'm probably got more than 1 or 2 right. So let's get in and look at the itinerary now. Oh, some quick analysis before that. 20 days in port, 29 days at sea. I really don't know how many tenders we would have on that. It seemed like 4 days would be the max at sea, and that would occur twice while we were making this transit around from Singapore basically to Southampton. So I broke it into 3 segments following what I've seen Oceania do in previous cruises. So the first one is a Singapore to Cape Town, which they've done before, although we have some interesting ports on this one. The columns, let me orient you. The month is over to the far left. The day is in the second column, and you want to read from bottom up. The next column, which has the big numbers, is the number of nautical miles we have to cover between ports. And I've got that for all the ports. For the Maldives, I don't, because it's not in the sea distances database. Bummer. But they did have the number for the next port, so it allowed me to kind of work that out. So again, you can kind of see what we're basically a lot of sea days as we're trying to get to Africa. Then once we get to South Africa, we start hitting a bunch of ports all in a row. So that'll be a nice little bit of activity there. The second one, again, follows what Oceania has done on previous cruises, and they typically offer this once or twice a year, this idea of Cape Town to Lisbon. And again, I tried to fit in because, again, they're doing some things a little bit different in 2025, probably reflecting the ground situation on the western coast of Africa. But this is what I think it is. And again, the columns are the same. The month you can't actually see, but the number of days starting in May and moving into June are listed there. The miles, the number of sea days, and then the ports that we're actually hitting. You'll note that I'm assuming we have 2 ports in Namibia. It's not listed, we don't know, but it fits the schedule, and there are 2 good places to go. And then once we get up to the Portuguese islands, I'm assuming we're stopping at both of them. Again, it fits the schedule, but maybe not. And then we have this last segment where we're in Lisbon, and it's just not that far from Lisbon to England, but there's this kind of 5-day segment. Oceania typically doesn't do this. They typically would extend it, but if they're trying to stay on schedule and rejoin the schedule, this is what actually kind of works. They could potentially hit some other places in Spain, but then they would have drop other, I don't know. I just tried to implement it the way they've got it, and this is what would happen. All right, so in summary, there exists a possibility that we're going to have to divert around Africa to avoid ongoing hostilities in the Red Sea. That decision will be made in mid-April while we're in Australia. The schedule that I've reverse engineered is from the Oceania announcement, the Oceania website, and is also from the seadistances.org website. I had to make a bunch of assumptions to do this, but it's the best fit, if you will, for what's going on. Hopefully we never implement this and we just go through the Suez Canal, because that's going to be awesome. But candidly, if we do implement it, it's still going to be awesome. It's still going to be a trip of a lifetime. It's still going to be a world cruise. And my wife and I are really going to enjoy it. So I did this video to help somebody out that asked me, and I tried to turn it within 24 hours. I hope I did. At least provide some additional analysis that would help on looking at this variant of the itinerary and what it possibly may be. So thanks so much for joining me in this short video. If you like what you see, please feel free to join our Carver Clan Travels. Feel free to leave comments and stroke the conversation so that we can employ the collective intellect of the community. Thanks again for watching. See you soon.